Another opening invocation and pledge of allegiance. Diane.
All right. Heavenly Father, we gather together, unite our hearts and minds in a common purpose, and grant us the wisdom to work together effectively. And at the same time, give us humility that we can see each other's perspective and value each other's opinion. We thank you especially for this Easter season, and we thank you for your son, Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. With allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
the Texas Pledge.
The Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one nation, under God and indivisible.
Gotta get better at that.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public tonight that you can see? Okay, thank you, Shelley. And any adjustments we need to consider? Okay, all right, good.
Mr. Ramsey at 47 Shearwater Place. The appraisal district, as you know, we were having problems with their new system and things being deleted and, not balancing and all kinds of stuff. They deleted the improvement off of his account, and he's been there since 2021. We refunded him the money. We normally will catch that because you don't delete an improvement, but it was just a mess going on right then. Anyway, he paid the penalty and interest because it was late, but it was an error on the appraisal district. And the law says if it's an error on the appraisal district or the tax office that prevented you from paying the taxes, you may waive the penalty and interest. This does fall within that category. So it's $493.06 that he's requesting. Make a motion to approve.
Yeah, can I just ask a question? When you say lost the improvement,
They removed it.
what is that? What do you mean by that, lost the improvement?
The house. They actually took the house off his account.
Oh.
Just dropped the house.
That's not good.
Yeah,
Okay, now I understand.
it was built for land only, and the house has been there for
Sure.
a year.
Okay, now I understand.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
okay, they lost the house, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, any other questions for Jeannie? Okay, Laura Glory said we had a motion.
I'll second. We volunteered.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, refund is due. Great, thank you.
That wasn't a volunteer.
We've got the consent agenda. Looks like normal items in here. We do have an adoption of resolution authorizing the additional penalty on delinquent accounts. But do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, with a second, any discussion on the items of the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Consent agenda passed. And then we'll move to the regular agenda, item 11, to the monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report. Chris, Ed, who's got the,
Both.
all right,
All right.
I got a whole bunch of us. We're each going to take a part of it.
okay, great.
It's good. Now, I do want to start by introducing some of the people. A lot of these people you won't see, they work behind the scenes, but everything, all the water, keeping it flowing and wastewater and everything, they do a lot of the planning and stuff. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves, starting with Jason.
Jason Williams, Operations Manager. I think I know most of
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks, Jason.
Aaron Shindelwolf, I'm a project manager and engineer. Been with the River Authority for over 14 years now, and primarily the whole time, or most of the time, I've been dealing with woodlands for the most part. Branched out a little bit, but projects and project plans, I've been doing those for years. So thank y'all.
Very welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Malia Good. I'm the new Utility Enterprise Administrative Manager. I've been with the authority about 2 months now, so everybody's new and I appreciate the opportunity to meet y'all. Thank you.
I'm Jacob Everett. I'm the Utility Enterprise Maintenance Manager.
Good evening, Brett Rayleigh, Raw Water Enterprise Manager. I oversee the Conroe and the Highland system, and I work for it.
You gave us the presentation on the dam, right? Very good.
Just trying to get them more involved
Yeah,
in
good.
what y'all do, how you do it. And they'll be coming for the next couple of months to see the project plan, the budget and everything, and get your thoughts on things. And so as we develop the plans and the budgets, they know where you guys are coming from. So we're
Well done,
gonna
Chris.
stack a deck
Yeah.
for a little bit with y'all.
Good.
In the monthly operations report, nothing out of the ordinary, no violations. Everything's pretty much status quo, Woodlands and GRP. But if you have any questions, be glad to answer.
I had a question from last month that was a kind of a carryover. It's just a general kind of information. And it came from a conversation with some neighbor friends, and we're talking about the blend of the surface water and groundwater. And the question is, as we get water from GRP and water from the wells, does every water plant have a 50-50 mix to it?
No.
Or do some parts of the Woodlands get more well water versus more GRP water? How would you characterize kind of the distribution of the 50-50 and the range in which it goes?
I can explain that, but let me let Jason.
Yeah, just,
Give you something to talk about tonight, Jay.
yeah, so just for instance, is the upper pressure plane, you share water planes 3 and 4, share the upper pressure plane. Those both set at 55% surface water feed. Middle pressure planes, water plant 2 is set at a 45% surface water feed, mainly because of the service area that it provides. At the furthest reaches, you don't want the disinfection byproducts to form too much. So we use the groundwater to cut that,
Right.
so it doesn't form so much. Water plant 1 and water plant 5, they're running about 50% surface water blend in both of those in the lower pressure plants. So overall, you come up to about 51% surface water for the month.
So the pressure plane is from kind of the north to the south, right? High to low?
Yeah, I can show you on the map.
Or done backwards?
Yeah. So the upper pressure plane, it's pretty well this area. You have water plant 3, water plant 4. Middle pressure plane would be this area minus here. Water plant 2 sits about right here. And it provides all this area. Water plant 1 sits down here. Yeah. It's up here. Water plant 1, yeah, it's up here. So, right here. So water plant 1 provides this area, then water plant 5 sits here by St. Luke's, takes care of Mud 39 and the metro area down to Research Forest. So there's a kind of your pressure plate, so upper pressure plate, middle pressure plate, lower.
So in summary, people more west would get more surface water, just a few percent
Right now.
more.
At this current blend right now, because overall it's an annual average of 50%.
Right.
So depending on how the feeds are, what's going on season, these will change throughout the year, but overall it's 50 overall. But you might be 55, 45, 51-ish, and it might change to 55, 45, 50, depending on usage and demands.
All right, cool.
Jason, what's the elevation difference from the west end to the bottom end of the Woodlands?
Oh. I've got that information. I can't think of off the
About
top of my
75
head.
to 100 foot.
And
Roughly,
my-
it's about, yeah.
Yeah, my reason for mentioning that is that's why we have the different pressure planes, because of the topography.
And they're separated by pressure reducing valves. They're connected at strategic places throughout. So let's say water plant 1, but water plant 2 where you failed. Water plants 3 and 4 when open, they actually push water down on to the lower pressure planes. So you can push water from here all the way down to the bottom using gravity. So that's kind of how it's set up with the pressure plants.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, appreciate that.
And Ed does have one item to go through as well.
Okay.
Did you all get a memo?
Yeah.
That was to kick you off. So we're going to talk a little bit about Bear Branch Dam this evening. Thank you. Thank you. Most of you all have been around a little while. So some of the, on page 1, the historical, some of that you may remember, there are 5 MUDs that participate in Bear Branch Dam and reservoir operation and maintenance expenses. Bear Branch Dam, to put you kind of in a technical terms, is a high hazard intermediate sized dam. What does that mean? High hazard means that there are a number of homes downstream that if the dam failed, those homes would be in jeopardy of being flooded or possibly even washed off their foundation. Also, there's the potential for loss of life. And they categorize that as 3 or more individuals as possibly in jeopardy. So that's why it's high hazard. Intermediate is based on the size of the reservoir that it serves. Intermediate is 600 acre feet to 50,000 acre feet. And this one gets up to about 10,000 acre feet when it's flowing full. So that gives you an idea. Lake Conroe is, I don't remember what the next size is. It's a high hazard. All the dams that we have, Highlands, Bear Branch, and Conroe are all high hazard dams because of population downstream and the residents downstream. TCQ rates those dams, but they also have various regulations that we have to comply with. So there's a 5-year an inspection every 5 years at a minimum. And those inspections get very detailed into the structural integrity of the dam. And so we have those reports. We've had those ever since, we do those inspections ever since we've taken over operation and maintenance of those dams, of that dam. On the upstream side of the dam, if you haven't been out there, there's soil cement on the upstream face of the dam along with concrete. The soil cement has been there since the beginning. This is a mixture of cement, sand, and some earthen material. It's a little bit cheaper to install than concrete, but it is deteriorating. It has been deteriorating for some time. Our last 2, maybe 3 inspection reports indicate that there's a need for maintenance of that or rehabilitation of that, along with the V-notch spillway that is our service spillway. So for those of you who've been on the board a couple of years, you probably remember the project that we did 2 years ago that was in kind of interim repairs where we were fixing voids that are under the emergency spillway, fixing holes in the concrete, and also repairing construction joints because water was getting through those joints and up under this concrete slab. So we spent roughly $160,000 on that project. And that was to buy us some time to get into a permanent design of rehabilitation for the dam. So in 2024, we did a request for qualifications for a dam engineer to come in and do the preliminary and then also final design of the dam. The firm that we selected, and that's at the very bottom of the page, first page, is Snobble Engineering. They do dams nationwide. And so we hired them. They delivered a preliminary engineering report in December of 2024 with some recommendations on the original project being rehabilitation of the soil cement and the service spillway. They also provided us a recommendation on the emergency spillway, which is the rest of the concrete that's on either side of the service spillway and then downstream of the service spillway. That was unexpected, a little bit of a surprise, but they came back and said that the concrete on the emergency spillway was deficient in thickness. And what they mean by that is this dam, as it exists, that emergency spillway is only 8 inches thick. And they came back with the recommendation that it should be closer to 14 inches thick, which is a little bit of a surprise because the dam's been there 40 years. We haven't had any issues other than water getting in under the slab a little bit. Their reasoning for the thicker concrete is to offset potential hydraulic lift of water getting up under the slab and lifting the concrete and moving it downstream. So that's the primary reason. In the recommendation, they provided us cost estimates for the original project, but did not provide us a cost estimate for the emergency spillway replacement. So we went back to them in January, February of this year and asked for a price for that. And right there in the middle towards the top of the middle of page 2, there are some costs. So the original project estimated at 5.7 million. That's a conservative amount. They gave us 3 ways to do it. And so the number I put there is as the more expensive way. The new recommendation on replacing the emergency spillway they've got an estimate of 5.5 million, and these are just construction costs. So $11.2 million just for concrete replacement without design. I've got another number down there for engineering, construction phase services, and construction materials testing, all the things that need to go on that are ancillary to the project, but kind of called soft costs. So all told, we're at $13.44 million. Funding so far has been 3.6 million from the Corps of Engineers, and that was 2 years ago roughly. And then the 5 MUDs have, through the last 2 fiscal years, allocated 1.7 million to get up to the 5.2 that we thought was the original estimate of the project. We're at a point where Congressman Crenshaw's office is asking if SGRA has some additional projects for funding. And we thought because of this new recommendation to add in the emergency spillway replacement, we would ask for some additional funding to go to this project. The max that you can request for any single project with Crenshaw's office for any appropriation year is $5 million. So we're thinking that we should apply for those additional funds. The deadline for application for submitting all your paperwork was last week. There are letters of support that the Congressman's office likes to have to go with the projects to show that they're supported by the community. We did provide those types of letters back in the original request for the 3.6 million. So where I'm headed in today's discussion is I'm laying groundwork to show you all there's a need for a project, and also to say, even though there's not an action item on the agenda, to allow Eric to include MUD 47 on the list. So I'll go through the funding ways to cover the funding. So if we're successful in getting the 5 million from the additional 5 million from the Corps of Engineers, then additional local funds is needed to cover the balance, because with the 5 million and the original 3.6, that's 8.6, and there's roughly $5 million left to cover. You've got 1.7 out of the 5 in cash. So you're looking at $3.3 million left to fund. There are a couple ways to do that. And the 4 columns at the very bottom of the page kind of walk you through that option. So your MUD 47, because of the number of homes whose drainage goes into Bear Branch, your pro rata share is 50.44% of the project. So if it's a cash contribution, it's roughly $1,614,000. I also looked at it from the perspective that if you choose not to go cash, but all 5 MUDs agree to this and SGRA does a bond sale, look at the full amount of $4.95 million at either a 15-year term or 20-year term on the bonds, making it as short as possible. And you can see that your annual contribution on a $4.9 million at 15 years is $238,000. And on 20 years, it's $198,000. A lot fits easier in your budget should you decide to pay an annual principal and interest amount versus figuring out how to get $1.6 million in less than 24 months. So we're not deciding on any funding tonight. All we're asking for is, should we go forward with this, we need a letter of support from MUD 47 to go with the other MUDs. And I have 2 more MUDs to visit with there tomorrow to get the letters of support to Congressman Crenshaw's office so that we can complete the request package. Let's see. Kind of next steps. From prior applications through the congressman's office, typically the request would go in March. That would get included in a federal appropriations bill that would be considered November, December of that same calendar year. And funds, if the appropriations is approved and we're successful in getting on the congressman's list, funds would be available approximately a year from now. So it takes a little time to go through the federal process. But this is, because the other way to fund this would be if we don't apply for federal funds, then the balance would have to be covered with all local funds. And the balance would be basically take 13.44 minus 3.6, that's $10 million covered through local funds.
Is it an all or nothing funds if you go the route of the bond, all bonds or no bonds? Do you
My
know?
recommendation would be keep the cash that's already been accumulated for other projects that Eric has talked to you all about, and then just go all in on bonds.
But I mean, it could be.
It could be a combination. It could be,
a combination.
So all the MUDs don't have to do the same thing. Yeah.
You have to watch, if, the only thing, one of the things you need to look at is if the number gets too low, then it doesn't make sense to sell bonds.
Right.
If it gets to $1 million, pop or something like that, it's not worth doing on the bond side.
How things go with 760.
they both said yes to signing the letter of support. And so I have 46 and 67 tomorrow.
I have a question on the recommendation from the engineering firm. So they found 8-inch thick. They recommend 14. Is that a federal number?
No, sir.
Whose number is that?
That is, what I'm understanding is typical design standards for dam emergency spillways. And to give you a point of reference, the one for Lake Conroe, which is much bigger dam, a lot more hydraulic pressure on it. What, 3 feet thick? So it varies based on size of the dam and the potential of hydraulic lift and pressure coming from the water.
There's not imminent danger, but in the next 3 to 5 years or something, they're saying you should get it
Yes.
built out to 14.
And basically you'd have to tear out what's there, excavate, and then tear out the concrete, excavate another half a foot and pour concrete.
We're certain that something needs to be done.
Yes.
Do you think that's a new design standard? I mean, that obviously 40 years ago it wasn't, right? Otherwise wouldn't have been built the way it is, I assume.
That's,
Didn't build an out of spec dam, I wouldn't think.
I
But
wouldn't think so, but the developers built it. I'm not saying they skimped on the design. I'm just saying we don't know what standard they used back in 1979, 1980.
other than that's how they built it. I
Right.
don't know why necessarily.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Is it worth getting a second opinion?
That's.
I have talked to other firms that do design work. The firm that designed Lake Conroe, Freeze and Nichols, they have a dam group or dam specialty group. We asked them and they said, yeah, 14 is pretty standard these days on a small dam. I did also visit with HDR, which is another firm that they've done it's 5-year inspections. And they said, yes, 13 to 14 is pretty standard for that size dam.
Where does Congressman Crenshaw, where is he looking to pull this $5 million from? And how confident is he with all of the cuts and that are being talked about in Washington, DC, that it talks a good game and that, but then there's a freeze and we're not going to give any, and we're left needing $5 million. Do you know what fund he's trying to pull from? And
Typically, these are funds that are coming from part of the word bill, or it's a community project funding appropriation. like the original funds for the, that we got were out of environmental infrastructure is what I recall.
At least
Account.
Eldon's cutting a lot of stuff. I mean,
Right.
it could happen.
There is no guarantee.
Yes.
Every year we've applied, we've had success. So we got the original 3.6 right shortly after Woodlands became part of the Congressman's congressional district. Not last year, the year before, we got $1.5 million for lift station rehabilitation. We had money in there this last year, and because the appropriations bill was not funded until February, he pulled all of his requests. And so we're starting over with a new administration. We don't know.
Yeah.
But the information was initiated by his office.
Yes.
So they came to me, I think, I guess came to them as well, asking.
You have projects.
Yeah.
So we're recommending to submit and see what happens.
That deadline passed last week, though.
It was last Friday. All the paperwork was due in to give them initial understanding of the projects. We can get the letters of support in, and then at some point, they're going to ask for more detailed information.
But presumably this would get approved end of this year.
Right.
And if there's not it's kind of a second opinion on the need to go to 14 inches, is there an opportunity to just get a second estimates on the work? Would that be typically part of what you would do? And you've got one estimate on the 5.5 plus the 2.5, the 2.2.
The 2.2 is based on a 20% of total construction costs. So it's a pretty standard percentage.
So the 5.5, though.
5.5
is from Schlabel or
Novel.
Schnabel?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Would you typically go out and bid that out to two or three contractors and see
What we
they
would
come back
do-
with or not?
What we would do is, if we go forward, he would go into more preliminary engineering design, and then he would be able to refine his estimate. It's not until he gets into full design and has accurate quantities that he could further refine that estimate. You know, there's a contingency in there.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he's got some highs and lows numbered. The high numbers would scare the Jesus out of you. So I kept with the middle numbers.
I'm sure something like this nice heavy 14-inch dam would have a long useful life. And because of that, accounting theory says governments should, finance this, sell bonds to pay for it. And if we used cash, that's taking residents that live here now and that have lived here in the past, it's taking their money when something like this should be spread out over a long time. So people that haven't even moved to the Woodlands yet should pay for this. So I just wanted to say that in support of
Yes.
doing the bond route.
That's a good point. Yep.
Well, and the audit committee has recommended that any project that has a service life greater than 25 years, we strongly consider bond funding,
And what would be the useful life of this?
50
Probably.
to 60.
Okay.
You know, we're already at 40 years on the current dam, 45 years. And as I told Eric earlier today, there's been not a whole lot of major maintenance on the dam. But at some point it's kind of like everything else that it needs major rehabilitation.
Roughly, what do we spend annually for maintenance
Or
down that dam that we'd be saving?
Well, right now we spend a fair amount of time painting the graffiti.
Solve that problem too.
This won't solve that problem. They'll just have new concrete to market. The last major expense was the interim repairs of $160,000.
Okay, so it's negligible.
Right. You know, we spend more annually just mowing and taking out dead trees and stuff like that than we do on repairing joints and stuff.
How's the bond market?
Yeah, crazy last week. It settled down a little bit this week.
So I use 5% is that a reasonable number?
Right now,
at this 10 seconds.
yeah, this week.
So do we need any more questions for Ed and company? Do we need?
Just for clarification, in the past, I looked up how the Muds handled it a few years ago in a similar situation. There was a letter of support that was signed by each of the presidents of the stakeholder Muds. So I'd look to do that again if you're.
Do we need a motion or just a motion to approve the letter of support?
No, because there's no action item on there. It's just the board concurring for the board president to sign the letter.
Y'all in support essentially
Yeah.
of this project, going to stay, taking the step. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's good. Thanks for the info.
Is the River Authority report done?
Unless you have questions.
Until we go to the next item.
Okay, well, this is a wastewater treatment, a question on the land acquisition.
That's Chris.
Land acquisition.
Well, that's me.
What's going on? Is it still happening around wastewater one?
So yes and no. A couple of months ago, actually, when we went into this last wastewater treatment plant analysis, we put the land acquisition on hold. We went to the trustees last week to say there are 2 tracts that we would like to acquire on a voluntary, on a friendly basis. One of the landowners has come to us and said, my wife passed, I want to sell. I can either sell to you, SGRA, or I'm going to put it on the market. We have appraisal for it. And then there's another tract and that tract has some development on it. And there's some buildings on there that we could make use of if we own the tract. There's another tract that's undeveloped, it's wooded. It's up in the area that we would have a stormwater detention basin. And so and that's regardless of which project we do. So there's value in acquiring that. Our board has said yes to move forward. The trustees were in concurrence because these are voluntary acquisitions. And so we're going to move forward on those 2 tracks.
So you'll buy them at appraised value?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Everything else is on hold.
Everything else is on hold until after the wastewater treatment plant analysis comes out.
Thanks. Any other questions for Ed? Moving on to the next item, or are we done with item 11?
No. No.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Now we're going to look at item 12, which is the 10-year project plan presentation.
So to save everybody a lot of time, there's a full presentation that I gave at the trustees meeting. Y'all can just refer to that for every step by step and everything else. I just wanted to point out what you see on the screen here is that right now the project plan, there's a copy over here. It's on the Google Drive as well. It's essentially the same project plan that we gave last year. With all these studies that are going on right now, we don't know what the path forward is going to be. So we didn't go through and change all the projects and update all the numbers and everything else. Essentially what we did in the project plan was we knocked off 2025, started in 2026, and then took it out to 35. Slight difference in numbers because you're adding another year, delayed some projects, but overall it's the same until the citizenship. So just a reminder, the project plan is not approved. It's just one of those things we hand out. There's a transfer in the O&M budget that y'all see in a couple months, and that's essentially funding the projects for FY26. If you read it, you have questions, let us know.
When we first started talking about the AC water lines, and we talked about the design that's 95% done, right? That how long life did that have? How long was it going to be valid if we decided tomorrow to execute? Is that design still good? When does the clock kind of run out on that design in practical terms, not just technical ones, but?
So you'd probably, since we're at 95, you haven't stamped it, so that clock technically has not started, right? But there is a potential redesign of that line just to move it outside of potential third lane to be expanded on Grogan's Mill sometime in the next 50 years. So that 95% is going to slip back to, I'm probably guessing 60% at some point in time.
50, 60, yeah.
50, 60% design. So
Because that's not the way it's set up now. It would be in the way of that third lane.
correct. Right now, it would actually be under the third lane.
Okay.
So clock hasn't started to answer your question.
Okay.
Is that line all the way down Grogan's from the middle school all the way up to Grogan's Forest?
It's not all the way to Grogan's Forest.
That's Woodlands Parkway to Research Forest Drive.
Okay, so just this one here.
Well, that's the project, but the line does run all the way down to,
Oh, the line itself, the entire line, yeah, that'd be another phase that goes all the way down to,
past Sawmill.
yeah, it's right up Sawdust almost, yeah.
If you look at the project plan, we have these maps.
Yeah.
And it will show you on that line where it actually starts and then where it all the way goes down to. So. Yeah, if you have any questions, just let us know.
All right, thank you. Item 12, any updates on the Bear Branch, Panther Branch?
We'll be setting up a stakeholder meeting probably in the next few weeks. I did receive the draft memo from LJA, but I have some questions. So once I get those answered, I'll be able to get them to clean it up, and then we'll get a stakeholder meeting scheduled.
Can you sneak preview that? What's your opinion?
Well, they were just asked to give a summary of the last stakeholder meeting. So there's not any decisions or anything. It was no, because the stakeholder group had just asked them to identify what the benefit is of this option and kind of finalize it. So into a memo that could be utilized to talk to certain entities to try to find funding if that was available. So there's not any new, there won't be any new. It's summarizing what we already know.
Yeah, okay.
In a memo.
Or we're supposed to get like a cost of what they would charge us, right, for LJA to their group that goes out to seek funding? Are they gonna come back to us with a cost on that, or can't remember?
Yeah, I don't remember that part of it. There was talk of maneuvering towards some mobility funding and them possibly helping with that.
Right.
But we wanted to get the memo done and meet again before we took that next step.
Yeah.
So I think they can help with that.
All right, that's it on that topic. Okay, the attorney's report. What do you have for us today?
Just legislative session rolls on. Y'all watch the trustees video, you'll see it covered a number of bills in the meeting last week. Happy to answer questions if you have them, but it's, it's typical, late session, rush to try to figure out which bills are gonna move and which ones aren't. And then you've got the added drama of every few sessions where, the minority party considers whether they're gonna leave town and try to prevent.
Go on vacation.
Yeah. So the bill for the budget passed the House on Friday, and so now we'll see if.
But they only have 2 more months, right? In session?
There's a lot. I mean, all of the bills don't get passed till that last few weeks. I mean, a few of the high profile ones that are priorities do, budget, for instance.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that doesn't pass until those last.
There's a lot that might not pass anyway.
Correct. I mean, typically.
They're pretty stymied this time around.
Yeah, I mean, normally about 85% of bills that are introduced do not pass. But,
Yeah, the Senate's clipping through with over 200 bills that they passed the House. It's just.
we knew it was gonna be a mess going in.
There's too much infighting.
And
Yeah.
residual bad blood, even within the Republican Party because of the bigger battle. So it's a bit dysfunctional. They didn't get committees assigned until extremely late, and they're way behind on considering bills. So it's a mess.
It's a mess.
We knew it was gonna be. I mean, we advised clients that were considering legislation this session to not take it at all. We're carrying the fewest number of bills that we've carried in a long time because we anticipated what was going to happen on the House side and just said, look, your chances of getting a bill passed, even if it's good legislation, is fairly low this go around. So
I understand there was a bill to kind of regionalize Harris County Flood Control District to put the state in charge via appointment.
House Bill 2068. So there was a hearing on that. on April the 9th. I have not seen, not had a chance to look this week. I checked on the committee hearings last week. Had not seen it move out of committee for a vote, but they did get a hearing. And we'll see where it goes. I mean, at this point, time becomes your enemy, because there's not a companion bill in the Senate, so it's got to get through the dysfunctional House and then go to the Senate and run through that. It's a very interesting bill, as far as moving the control of it away from Harris County into the state and providing a mechanism to add other counties to its jurisdiction to provide more for regional functions. So it's a very interesting bill, but you're trying to ask me odds on it passing right now. If it hasn't gotten a committee vote and we don't know what's going to happen with the House and it's the middle of April, your odds are quickly dwindling for this session. But a lot of times you'll see bills that get introduced multiple sessions. I mean, this taxpayer, the ban on the taxpayer funded lobbying, which, on its face sounds, oh yeah, why do we want to pay for that? But when you think, well, who are the taxpaying entities? It's jurisdictions like yours and other entities that won't have the ability to advocate the same as private parties that may be funding lobbying, advocating against public interest to create a non-level playing field. So that argument can go both ways. But anyway, that legislation's been introduced in 2 or 3 previous sessions. It's finally got some traction and it's passed passed the Senate and is now in the House. Don't know if that'll ultimately pass this session or not, but you will see bills that, people think, oh, that's, an interesting idea that may get a little more momentum, but have to go through 2 or 3 sessions before it finally passes. So long way of saying, even if it doesn't pass this time. in the future.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brian. All right, general manager report, item 16.
Yes, 15, Howard Hughes.
Oh, gosh, sorry about that. Howard Hughes. Come on over, talk to us.
So my name is Antonio Paz. I'm Senior Project Manager in Land Development with Howard Hughes Corporation. And I'm here to talk about 1488 Water, Sewer, and Drainage Extension Project. This project was recently completed last February, and we had the inspection with the River Authority present, and as well as Woodlands Water. And believe that if there were any punch list items that have been addressed, because the utilities are charged and extended and served. It's kind of in a summary, the project that I wanted to speak to y'all about. Y'all familiar with it? Y'all have any questions?
I just thought I'd say I appreciate your setback there. I noticed you have a lot of trees still standing when I passed it last, maybe a week ago. It was good. It looks like the woodlands.
Any other prospects on the horizon
Well,
in that area?
the components, this project is a component of a major infrastructure that's going to keep extended over to the west.
Right.
But there have been limitations. As you all know, sanitary sewer by gravity will be ending up to this point and capturing the track immediately next to Buckshot Lane of 1488. And from there on, it will be required to build force main lift station that will pump that back into the gravity system. Storm sewer is delivered also what's going to require to run to the south, and the water line will just keep extending until we capture the last undeveloped parcel on the south side of 1488. Just to give you a point of reference, you'd be all familiar with Del Webb development. Unfortunately, that pretty much marks the end of this commercial parcels that I'm referring to.
And I believe the sports complex broke ground, if I'm not mistaken, I think.
Did it? Okay.
I believe they have.
Officially.
That's correct.
Do you manage the whole project, that whole tract?
Do not. No, we sold it. That is a sale.
No, pardon me, the rest of the development.
Oh,
Are you the guy? Are you the corner office?
As long as they require my service.
As long as you work there?
Yes, sir.
So that area to the south where we've got 147 residents, I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
the more you can protect their privacy,
Yes.
flood issues, the more appreciative this board will be.
Well said.
But nothing imminent on the rest of the development, what you're saying.
No, it's,
That's what I'm hearing.
unfortunately, it's kind of a speculative, based on the market conditions.
Yeah.
Like Eric mentioned, the sports facility has broke ground and who knows if that will trigger some interest from other potential investors on adjacent tracks or parcels now that the infrastructure is on the ground. And ready to serve. That helps a lot.
Yeah, existing utilities typically.
Make a difference, yeah.
It's only a matter of time now.
Yes.
Well, if something does pop and think it'd be interesting to this board, appreciate you just, asking to come back on our agenda anytime. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Everyone, goodbye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're
Over there.
general managed item 16. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Wanted to update you in the trustee report. You'll see the GRP summary. And I gave a report to the trustees, so you can read that. I did also, Kim and I had a meeting with Brad Howe to continue that dialogue in kind of rehashing the last meeting and prepping for the next meeting. Next GRP meeting will be this Monday, the 21st. So more to come on that. I did want to mention that we are going to start proceeding with some ditch work and ditch piping that we've identified that needs to be addressed. We had some budget in each of the months to do some of that. We have encountered through our evaluations several areas throughout the Woodlands that need some immediate attention. So we've already started working on some of that, and we'll be doing some of that as well in 27. Wanted to update you that the next All Muds meeting is on May 8th. And also the trustees have decided to conduct a special trustees meeting that has been scheduled for April 22nd at 6 p.m. here. So trustees will have a special meeting on the 22nd, next Tuesday, a week from today.
Did they say why?
To talk about the wastewater treatment plant analysis that you heard on, there's some questions and some discussion to be had on parameters of that, I think is what I'm hearing.
We started getting into it a bit, and I think everyone felt like we need to just get offline and get onto another agenda topic and really just concentrate on that one item.
Table that.
Yeah, so we could all, so we've agreed, I think, to that date next
Yes.
week, right?
Want to give you an update on the Spring Creek Drainage Project, the drainage analysis that's being done for the past year and a half, 2 years. The next town hall meeting is scheduled for April 21st, next Monday in Waller. And then a week later, on the 28th of April, they'll be back at the township for the final town hall meeting, which was required as part of that project. So if you want to go out to Waller, we can send you the address, but they'll be in the township the next week. So that's coming there. With that, I'll kick it over to John for communications. And as he's walking up, you saw the adjusted general manager's report last month. We've continued to kind of update it and create some additional information. Hope that's working.
Yeah, well done. Well done on that. Can I ask one question before we jump into John's? On page 52, you mentioned that don't go anywhere, John, so quick, that the PFAS testing was completed for MUD 7, 47, 60, 67, et cetera. Can you give a sense of kind of where we are in the range of I assume there's an upper limit that you're testing for? I mean, are we like close? Are we way below? Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, you were below detect.
Below detect even? Okay.
Is that all the muds?
So far, yep.
Okay, so that's good.
Just the plain water. Generally.
And that's a blend of the water that you're testing, or is that just well water or?
No, that's the water that's out in the system.
So at a water plant, that's kind of a 50-50 blend. It's sampling that. Okay. All right.
A couple more months to go to finish that out.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, John, go ahead.
Page 62, starts your communications report. Up top there, I just want to bring forward some outcomes from that annual update that you sent out. So you can get a sense of how many folks you reached and, the kind of bang you got for your buck, your $2,500 you spent there. You have a 39% on your email column there that read your email, that opened it. You had a 77% open rate. I just want to note that that's because not everybody is on that list. We don't have all of your customers on that email list. But that resulted in a 24% uptick in your daily traffic on the webpage. So we did see a nice reaction to that. Infrastructure renewal communications, we held our third meeting on Wednesday, April 2nd. A lot of great talk, a lot of ideas and questions coming forward from the group, a lot of discussion within the group, and a lot of eagerness to bring information back out to the community. I mean, that is what it's there for, is that conduit back and forth. And we're really starting to see that happen. So I think we have an effective group at work there. They're going to be meeting again on May 13. I have the wrong date there. Apologies. It's May 13, wastewater treatment facility number 1. They're going to tour it and then meet afterwards. And there's a couple videos in development on renewal that should be coming out here in another 6-8 weeks. And we also have a meeting in a box, which is designed for a select few folks to that can just pick that up and take it out to the community. So if we get a request for a presentation, we have that in the can. It's a PowerPoint and collateral materials to support it. And then we can just take that and run. So it makes it easy to get information out to groups. On the next page, we're going to start bringing WaterSmart registrations updates to you periodically. We've had some requests for that from some MUDs. So you can see where 47 sits right now. You got 42% on your commercial are registered and 74% on your residential. So you are above average, both fronts. Strong, 47.
Like to be.
There you go. Like Lake Wobegon. We are focused on water quality in this second quarter of our strategic plan. So you're going to see that reflected in marketing materials, including our social media. A reminder, if you're on social media, and I encourage you to get on there at least every now and then, just see what we're posting about. When you're there, please like us, share us, follow us, right? If you can do those 3 simple steps, it really helps us grow our reach. Thank you. We have a kids art contest that's running. It's going to ramp up very shortly, and that'll conclude before school is out. So excited to see what kind of awesome creations we get this round. Do that.
That was my monitor out there.
Yeah. Our last round or some of those are on the screen there. And then finally, the outreach calendar there. Eric had that meeting in a box in hand for the April 10th presentation to the North Houston Association Water Infrastructure Committee. That was on April 10th. I was at Woodlands Township last Saturday. A lot of folks there, a lot of great conversations. I will be out at the farmers market this Saturday. And Eric is slated for a Rotary Club presentation on May 1. And as always, for the outreach events, come on out and join us even for just a few minutes. And there we are. Questions?
John?
Yeah.
I forgot about this little project, the tax explanation that we could put on bills. Has that gone anywhere?
We have talked about it. So there is not real estate for it on the water bill.
Okay.
Options that I think we've talked about it before would be a bill stuffer.
Yeah.
Potentially a bill ad. I think it would make a great bill ad. The challenge there is, competing with the other messaging we're trying to get out, is so trying to find a slot for it. We could do it as a bill stuffer. There is a cost to that.
Right. It was pretty negligible based on the newsletter, wasn't it?
21 cents for a one-sided and 36 for a double.
And if you send it out about when the appraisals come out, maybe next year, it coincides with them understanding what they're paying.
Yeah, I guess that's something, again, we can continue to talk about if we want to do it just for 47, if it's everybody.
Just try it out, 47.
Yeah.
I know it's some work, but I think that transparency, I like this stuff is all great, but dollars and cents.
Now we do post periodically on the weekly and then in social media on how mud taxes are calculated.
Okay.
We've had that go out twice in the past 12 months.
Yeah, still, I think
It makes a
get a piece of
difference when you have the
paper.
bill.
Yeah, when it's
Because
sitting on your
they're
kitchen
like,
table, they're looking at it, the kids are looking at it, the parents are talking about it.
And the sewer bill just came in and they're starting to they're,
Yeah.
the summer's coming and their water usage is going up and they're like, how is this calculated?
Yeah, I mean, I all the outreach is great, but there's a lot of, fiscally responsible, frugal people in the Woodlands. And I think it'd be good to give that story.
No, nor do we, I mean, we just talked about that, our emails don't catch everyone by far.
Right.
So we need to be communicating on multiple fronts with all of our messaging. So,
I'll help you.
I think that's good.
Just tell me if you can put it on something of a priority list.
John, when you think about that and you do the 4 quarters, right? When we go through our cycle of topics, there might be one that makes more sense than another, at least it's on.
Fourth quarter is value, and that's where you really shine a focus on finances.
And that's when your bills start coming out. So maybe it's a 4th quarter item. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to think.
Heck yeah.
When we're talking about that topic,
It lines up with their other.
lines up with that.
Yeah, well, that too, but they're also coming in and paying their bills in December and January. So end of year makes a lot of sense.
End of year, September through October is our, September through November is our 4th quarter. We focus on value.
Yeah, perfect.
And the budget's been passed, and so that's, either then or the end of the year as well.
We throw up a table on that so they can see how they're the lowest rate in the Woodlands.
Yeah, you see the real dollars and the rates and the appraise and all, all the net. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Somebody to think about them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more on your report? You're saying no. All right.
No, the next item.
Trustee meeting.
No, the one we.
17.
There was another one.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Got a request from a board or two, and I ended up putting it on all the agendas just so everybody could hear the same thing. I did present this at the new director orientation last year, but thought it was a good refresher. Our protocol for identifying agenda items for all the meetings, including the trustee meeting, is end of the day Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we finalize the agenda, work with Brian's office to finalize it. And that allows us to start building the packets on Friday to be able to give them to you on Friday afternoon. Takes almost a half a day to collect all the reports from all the consultants, collate it for MUD. Identify some agendas for each MUD are different, so we got to make sure the right things in all the things and then get it. So just wanted a reminder. Doesn't mean we can't necessarily make some changes last minute on Thursday. We can, but certainly Friday afternoon is difficult, which was part of the question.
That was happening.
Okay, so
that's what
end of day Wednesday is kind of the deadline. That's what how we've been working.
It is.
Anyway.
It is.
So. Okay. Any questions for Eric on that? Okay. All right, that was item 17. Now we go to the trustee report, item 18.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about the GRP. There wasn't a whole lot more than that. 10-year project plan was given in more detail, as Chris mentioned. And so, and then the decision to have another meeting.
Yeah, the only other thing I picked up was, so that land that you were talking about, I think the cost on that was $670,000, I think. That's what you said in the trustee meeting. That was kind of the target number.
Round number.
2 parcels-ish, right?
Yes. 670 all in on both of them.
670 all in on both of them, yeah. There was also a request to look at the 2017 bond spend, kind of to see where that kind of, I guess, a look back or a rack up of what's been spent there. And then Eric, you had an item on the GRP, the goals. You shared a little bit of that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to maybe do some of that here, if you would?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I think I reported last month that I had asked for agenda item on the GRP for all the committee members to talk about their goals and objectives as they represent their, particular groups. Before that occurred, there was some clarification on what the roles and responsibilities were. I asked for that agenda item to be placed back on the next one. And so I thought if I'm going to give our goals and objectives, I wanted to make sure that it aligns with the trustees. And so I brought it up at the trustee meeting the other day that, where I see it, the priorities would be, greater utilization of the facility itself, lower the cost, lower the rates. And then as kind of a subset of that would be to, increase, or I guess decrease the rate of subsidence by increasing the rate of surface water usage. And if those are our three main goals as the Woodlands, then I think I can run with that. So I don't think there was a particular vote, but it was, I think, 10 nodding heads at the trustee meeting that concurred with those three main points that I'll share with the GRP committee on Monday. Good deal.
I think there was also some discussion about the kind of the topic about that is the infrastructure problem with the aquifers, not the aquifer declining. That was kind of an interesting discussion for those who care about the aquifer.
It was doubled down, confirmed that it is a prescribed decline of the aquifer that is the plan for Lone Star. So the reports and the graphs that were being presented were partially done by one of the new committeemen, Ben, who had done some analysis over the last few years. And the graphs in particular that I was questioning were graphs that indicated essentially the rate of static water level decline of the aquifers shown against the kind of the depths of different wells across the freeway in the Rayford corridor, kind of in that's where all 88, 89 scud and to several others that he had data on. And I just asked the question, as the permittee of Montgomery County, could we see this for all of the wells in Montgomery County? And the response from Lone Star was, well, that's a little bit of a heavy lift. They didn't think that they could do that. So what I'm interested in is seeing when if the trends continue to decline, when does it hit everybody's wells? Because once it gets to a certain point, wells have to be condemned at that point. So is that 5 years from now? Is that 10, 20? I don't know. Now, coincidentally, Central Water Authority did have a analysis done a couple years ago to actually look at that. So I've got that now, and I'm gonna share that with the MUDs as well, just so you can see it. It does indicate that there's a handful of wells that will be affected in the next 10 years or so.
Deepening or drilling new wells is not, you can't do that forever.
Can't deepen a water well, but you'd have to abandon it, drill a new deeper well. And we do have Evangelines are typically shallower and Jaspers are deeper. So, and I think, Chris would tell you that we had 38 there, we have 37 wells, and over time, some of the Evangelines that are the lesser producing wells are likely gonna be decommissioned, and you might trade, 2 or 3 for one new, more producing well as time goes on. So that'll be probably part of the general plan for the Woodlands as time goes on. But my concern is that's just the nature of wells. That's not necessarily, being forced upon us because we have a desired future condition that's creating a decline in the aquifers. That's something we can do something about if we're paying attention. That's my concern. And we're just 37 wells, but there's, I don't know how many wells across Montgomery County. That's a big expenditure for a lot of municipalities.
Is Ben Slotnick a MUD director or a GM like you?
MUD director. On 89. Yeah, 89. Then a geologist in the oil business.
Okay, thanks for that. You've been able to, you and Kim and Brad continue to meet after those meetings and review all that and kind of put your heads together and think of where to take things, right?
We sure do.
Okay, good. I think that's all I had. Let me check my notes from the trustee. I think that's it. Special meeting we talked about. Yeah. Okay. Any need to close or to go to recess to close session?
All right.
Sorry, I'm trying to say it really. Okay, then we'll reconvene and doesn't look any more comments from the public. Any items on future agenda that you want to put on today? All right. And we are dismissed. Way to go, Pete.